everyone. Just going to wait a few minutes for people to get on, and then we will start our program for today. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in today with Conservation Nebraska to learn all about composting. This program is in line with the outdoor pillar and reflects actions we can take at home in support of our annual theme, Our Earth, Our Future. We hope you are healthy and staying active, Girl Scouts. Do you have all your supplies ready? I am now going to turn it over to Alicia to get us started. What supplies did they need to have ready for today, Alicia?
What they needed was just some soil. Right now I have worm castings. Topsoil works as well, but no potting soil. Browns, which are like dried leaves, coffee grounds, or dry grass. And then greens, which are just like table scraps, so it could be any kind of vegetable or fruit scrap. And then we have our 5-gallon bucket, and I have drilled holes in the bottom. And then some water is what we'll need today. But to start off, we're going to talk about what composting is. So compost is, it's a mixture of various decaying materials that, they come together and they make a really good fertilizer, and a lot of people use it as fertilizer, and it encourages microbes in the soil. So there are a couple different types of composting. There's on-site composting, which is kind of what we're going to do today. In the bucket, it's going to be a smaller version of a lot of, you can either do buckets, people do wooden bins, and then there's vermicomposting, which involves worms, which I have an example of. And they break down the organic material, so that would be your food scraps. They break that down, and they make it into the worm castings, which is called black gold. And it's really good for your soil. And then there's the Windrow Composting, that are really big piles of compost. It's usually like citywide or community-wide composting. It's the really big piles of dried grass and dried leaves, and then food scraps as well, and those get turned. And then there is direct composting, which is where you can just kind of dig a hole in your garden, or and just put the food scraps right in there and bury it. And that one's like one of the easiest to do, and kind of just do and forget about and keep going. So for the benefits of composting, composting enriches and improves soil quality by helping retain moisture and suppressing plant diseases and pests. That's why it's used as a fertilizer. It reduces chemical fertilizers, and it reduces greenhouse gases by reducing the production of methane gases that it released from food waste that goes into the landfill. So for the vermicomposting, I just have a worm bin over here. And for the vermicomposting, it's just some bedding in here. So the bedding material are what the worms live in, and they also eat it. So all this newspaper that you see, they'll get through eating all of it. But that you put your table scraps in here. So I'll kind of just see if we can see some worms. Yeah, there's. You can see it right here. It's moving. And these aren't just any typical earthworm. These are red wigglers. Are the ones that you vermicompost with. And I feed mine about once a week, and you bury the food scraps that you feed them, so you can kind of see they had some lettuce, and there's a couple more of them. And they like to be underneath the soil. That's where they live, and that's where they're happy. Let's see, there's a couple more in there.
There's one.
And you can see that I actually put a lot of lettuce in here last week, and they've gone through a lot of it. They can eat about half their body weight in food a day.
Oh, wow. So how many worms would you put in something this big?
So this big, you would do 1 pound to half a pound of worms, and that's anywhere from 300 to 1,000 worms.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's a lot. But they will eat all your food scraps, and they will give you those worm castings, which are really good for your gardening and everything like that, and it'll help your plants grow. And it takes about 2 months to get the worm castings from them.
We have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Do your worms reproduce?
They do reproduce. And how you know that they're reproducing is, right now, let me see. These ones aren't mature right yet. Let's see if I have it. Okay.
Oh, there it is, right there.
You can see this one right now is not mature because it's just long and flat. When they're mature, they'll get really big, like in the, like their midsection, kind of.
Okay.
They have a really big. It'll like grow basically, and it'll be lighter than the rest of them, and that's how you know they're mature. And they are asexual, so they mature and produce on their own. So they'll produce about 2 eggs every couple of months. And then, because right now I only have about 300 worms in here, but once they produce, I'll have twice as much or 3 times as much as I started with. And you can share them with friends and make bigger worm bins if you want to, but you can share it with friends, and then friends can start vermicomposting.
I can't wait to get some worms.
And then this one is really simple. You put the bedding material in here, which is just soil and newspaper, and then you put the worms in here with their food, which are your table scraps, and you have just some air holes around the sides, and a little bit of water, because they like it a little bit moist, but not too moist. And you can keep it in your house, or in a shed, in a garage, or outside. They are a little bit delicate to temperature. So when it's really hot outside, I'll lay like some damp newspaper on top of them in there. Or if it's colder, you can wrap blankets around it. But the temperature outside doesn't always determine the temperature that's going to be in here. It might be a little bit warmer in here for them.
Okay.
That's vermicomposting. But we're going to make an on-site composting bucket. So we're going to start with our 5-gallon bucket. And like I said, I had drilled holes in the bottom. And you can drill them on the side as well, but you don't want too much air. So I just go with the bottom, and it allows some drainage. So what I start with is, in your browns, what I grab is some twigs. So there's some twigs in here. And you can use dried stems. It just allows for a little bit of airflow in the bottom to have the browns and some twigs at the bottom. So I'm just going to start off with some leaves from my browns. And if you have more twigs, you can kind of just lay those across the bottom. And we're only going to fill it to about halfway up, because you can keep filling this as you go. You can keep putting your table scraps in it. So then I'm going to grab some soil. And then just kind of sprinkle a layer of soil in there. And then I'll put a layer of the greens in there. Then you'll put a little bit of water. You're gonna want to put less water than you think, just a little bit, because you don't want to make it too moist right off the bat, because that will stunt the composting.
Will it get moldy if you put too much water in?
It won't get moldy. It will start to smell, and when compost starts to smell, that's when you know it's just like not working. For the most part, it's too wet, and you don't want that, and you don't want it to leak because it won't break down. So you need those browns kind of to soak up the water that are coming from the greens. So I'll do another layer of leaves. Some more soil. So you can do about 2 to 3 layers of all this. You want to have the least amount of greens though, just to start off. You don't want it to be, again, too wet. And then a little bit more water. Just kind of watering each layer. Have some moisture in it. This is probably going to be my last layer. 3 or 4 layers, depending on how thick you're making one, is good for the starting the bucket. And it should get you to about halfway.
Okay, we're going to just turn it back over on me for a second. Okay, so we have 3 layers so far. She's just getting ready to put the additional layer of soil in there on top of the 3rd layer of browns. Let me put it back on her. So Joey would like to know any particular type of soil. Just want to make sure Miracle-Gro doesn't hurt the worms.
For the worms, you want to use topsoil, or cocoa core is what it's called, which that is just like dried coconut that you can get in bricks.
Okay.
Or you can use topsoil. You can use other worm castings to start it. You don't want to use potting soil too much. You can use potting soil because you will need a little bit of grit for them to like attach to initially.
But you don't want a lot?
You don't want a lot, no. You just want a little bit of that.
So in a bin about the size of your what's the V word?
Vermicompost.
Vermicomposting. Mm-hmm. How much topsoil would you use in that?
I would use about 5 to 10 pounds. This is a 20-gallon. So about 5 pounds of soil should be good. Or with the cocoa core, you could use 1 5-pound brick. And then just about maybe half a pound of potting soil for grit.
Okay.
So I'm going to put the last of the greens in there. A little bit more water. And I'll grab the lid. And the only place you need the holes are on the bottom. You don't need them anywhere else. Because that could lead to bugs getting in there. I don't want to. So then, when you have it all done, you're going to shake it and kind of turn it and mix it all up. And then once you've gotten pretty shaken, and you can check it as well to see how it's looking, it's kind of just all shaken together now.
Okay.
And if it feels like dry, you can do it by touch or by looking at it. If it looks or feels dry, you can add a little bit more water. This looks pretty good right now. So then you can just put this outside in a sunny area because you want the heat, and you'll turn it about once a week. And if you're putting more and more greens and browns in it, you're going to want to turn it every time you do that. Just to incorporate them into the whole.
When you say turn it, do you mean like shake it up?
Yeah, you can shake it, you can roll it. that's the easy thing about it being in a bucket, is that turning it is much easier just by shaking it,
Okay.
rolling it. And then it's about 2 months until you get good compost out of it.
Oh, okay.
If you keep adding, might take 3, but you just want to check it, and when it's done, you can like transfer it to another bucket, and you won't be adding any more to it, but you can use the same bucket over and over again for composting.
Rhino says this reminds him of the old fishing bucket his dad used to keep his night crawlers in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could use that for composting too. But yeah, so that's an easy composting bucket. This would probably be the easiest right now. Vermicomposting, it can be hard to come by worms locally, but if you know somebody who locally has worms and are willing to give some to you, that'd be the best way. But you can also get them. There's little red worms in Lincoln. They will send worms, and they have some worms there. For
Is that the name of the company?
Yes.
Little Red Worms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And then I actually got my worms from Buckeye Organics online, and they were really good at getting them here on time, and the worms they were doing great.
So you said that'll take about 2 months. This type of composting. Now, how long until that becomes good compost, and how do you separate the worms?
So for separating them, when you take them out, what I do for feeding them is I put their food on one side, and then you put the bedding over them and cover them, and then there's kind of an indent on the other side. So that's where you'll feed them, so they'll migrate back and forth.
Okay.
So that'll make it easier when they're getting the good worm castings to separate them. So you can migrate them onto one side and get them out that way.
Do you ever have to add more newspaper?
Yes, you might have to add more newspaper because they will eventually break all that down as well.
Okay.
So if you look at it and you're like, oh, there's not as much newspaper, maybe they need more bedding. If it looks a little bit sparse, you can add more newspaper and more soil. But you'll be able to tell because the soil that you put in there usually is it's going to be a little bit browner, while worm castings are very dark. This is worm castings right here, so it's almost black, as you can see.
And it's like is it a little powdery?
Yeah, this one's a little bit powdery because it's dry, but when it's in there, it's going to be like a damp sponge.
Oh, okay.
And actually, a damp sponge is kind of how you want to keep it in there at all times, as well as in here. That's like a good composting. That's how you know it's not too wet or too dry. Damp sponge consistency.
Okay. Do we have any questions? We'll give you a little bit of time to think about if you have any questions for Alicia. All right, nothing's coming up yet. There is a little bit of a delay, which makes it a little bit awkward. But if you notice mold, is your compost ruined?
For the most part, it might be ruined. You might want to just start over. But you can also just, if you see like it's concentrated in one area, you can remove it and then just add more browns. And don't add any greens for a while. You want it to kind of
dry out a little.
Dry out, yeah. You don't want it to be too wet. And you can even take the lid off sometimes when it's outside in a sunny area if you notice it's too wet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Hi. So thank you for watching our program about composting today. And thank you so much, Alicia, for putting this program together for us. Don't forget to check our website and blog for updates. Share some pictures of your homemade compost bins on our Facebook page using hashtag GSSN and hashtag Girl Scouts at Home. Now, we are very, very excited to announce a new program that is live for registrations right now. It is Girl Scouts Spirit of Nebraska's Backyard Bio Blitz. This program is free and registration is very easy for both members and non-members. Check out our programs page on the website and look for the link in to the description on May 2nd. On the calendar, May 2nd. Don't wait to go until May 2nd. So you want to go now and register for our Backyard Bio Blitz. It's a great opportunity to get outside, get some fresh air, and become a citizen scientist. This is a great family or troop activity that can help us connect in this socially distant world. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning for your live horse lessons with Dusty Trails at 10 a.m. Central. At 2 p.m. Central, we'll be learning about entrepreneurship with Erin. For our adult volunteers, tune in tonight at 4 p.m. Central for information on programs on demand with Krista. Stay healthy, wash your hands, and we will see y'all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.